today's topic, we're going to be talking about selling price versus selling on value. And I think there's a place for both, and we're just going to kind of talk a little bit about those. If you think about it, selling on price, it has its place when maybe you're competing against other companies and other agents, maybe who are presenting products. And I mean, if all your client is completely focused on is finding the cheapest thing possible, and you have trouble adding any kind of value, you try to explain different value propositions, but they just aren't going along with it. And all they really care about is the absolute cheapest thing out there. Well, then it's probably good to have one of those price busting products in your portfolio. But I think that there's a lot more to it than just selling on the absolute cheapest product available. I think selling value, not only what you can do for your client, but just the different products that are out there that maybe add a little bit more value, will really separate what you're doing from what other agents are doing out there that are strictly focused on selling on face amounts and rates. So for future trainings, go to adambrsan.com and register. You will receive an email every week of trainings to come. We are recruiting nationally. Things are going really well. Lots of agents are seeing the value and doing business with us. All right, so selling on value over price. Why do agents sell based on the lowest price available? And we talked a little bit about that here at the beginning. It's a competitive market. They're fearing getting their business replaced. Sometimes maybe agents get in their head a little bit too much about that. And I mean, I think there's a lot of people out there that stress that you just have to sell the absolute cheapest, most affordable product out there. Sometimes the cheapest isn't the best. I mean, with pretty much anything, if you think about it. I mean, why would you want to buy the cheapest when any sort of item at the store? If you're buying the cheapest thing, there's a good chance that it could end up falling apart on you. Value to me is just a little bit more important than selling on price. But again, it's a competitive market. Agents fear getting their business replaced. They feel like they just have to offer the absolute cheapest product out there. The target market, we are dealing with seniors that unfortunately they don't have a whole lot of money coming in. They middle to low income. Majority of our clients are just living on some form of Social Security. So they get their monthly deposit from Social Security, and that's what they're living on. So, I mean, honestly, it's like we have to figure out a way to just fit a little bit into their budget so they can handle keeping up with this every month. But again, talking about the value proposition, we'll get to that. We'll talk about, you might not even have to write as much coverage with some of these carriers that have a little bit more additional value that they're able to add. Why do I sell based on value? Like I said, I feel like it kind of separates me from the competition. I don't like sounding like the last 5 people that walked into the home of my prospect. It seems like most sales guys, they all pretty much do everything the same. First thing they're doing is walking in and asking about the pictures on the wall and stuff like that. I've always wanted to do things a little bit differently. And that's where I feel like selling on value too. It kind of separates me from those agents that all they're doing is walking in and how much coverage do you have? How much are you paying? Well, let me see if I can beat it. Well, what's going to happen when the next cheap product comes out that's going to beat the rate that you're providing that client? There's a good chance that you're going to get that business replaced. But when you're adding that value, it's going to make a difference, and it's going to keep that business on the books, regardless of what the price is. It makes you unique. Again, different than anything else out there. So the product that I use, and you know what, you can even do this with like different riders that are available out there. The last 2 weeks, me and Chris Smith, we did trainings talking about just different carriers, different unique carriers that really, I mean, with maybe 2 or 3 of them, if that, you might not even need 2 or 3. I mean, we had one carrier that went 0 to 85 that could pretty much insure anybody, had a guarantee issue and everything else. But anyways, we went over these carriers, and some of those carriers even have different riders that that make a difference, that add some value. A lot of them had like the accelerated death benefit riders. That's a good rider. And that's a lot of times that is something that's just included with the plan. And then some of the other riders we talked about, like some of them have like a nursing home waiver of premium rider. You end up in a nursing home, you're not going to have to worry about making those premium payments. What happens when you end up in a nursing home? And a lot of the times they end up controlling your assets, and you could end up losing your insurance policy if you ended up in a nursing home. The fact that there are these riders out there, I mean, heck, that's something too that adds value. I think Baltimore Life was one too that we talked about last week, where they have a rider too, where when you pass away, because it could take maybe a little bit of time for that claim to be paid, they will send a check to the family right away for, like, I forget what it was, maybe like 1,500 or 2,000, something like that, but just a little something to get some money in the family's hands, which definitely is helpful because these funeral homes want to be paid. They want their money up front. And a lot of times the funeral home is not going to do anything until they have some money in their hands. So that's why I really too like to work with the different carriers that are very good about paying their claims quickly. And that's again another way of adding value, talking to your clients about that, about different products that are going to pay those claims quickly. The product that I feel adds the most value is a product by American Amicable. It's called the Platinum Solution, Platinum Legacy product. Another one too, we talked about a carrier last week, SBLI. They have a similar program as well to what American Amicable offers with the Platinum Solution and just the added benefits. So if you're with SBLI, same thing. There's a nice additional value that's added in that's going to save the family some money, make things a lot easier on the family when the time comes. But yeah, the American Amicable product, they're real good about paying claims. They pay the claims quickly. I mean, just look back in 2021, they paid out over 13,000 claims, totaling over $141 million in death benefits. So, I mean, to me, that's a company that's not afraid to pay a claim. And I like working with carriers that practice what they preach. And part of this product, the Platinum Solution, talks about the fact that they pay that claim within 48 hours. So when that family needs that money to pay the funeral home, they're going to have it. So a little bit about American Amicable. They've been around 113 years now. Home office is in Waco, Texas. They're an A-rated carrier. They were acquired by Industrial Alliance Insurance and Financial Services in 2010, which has $109 billion in assets. Pretty good size company. I mean, that's someone I'd want to do business with. I don't feel like there's any chance of them going anywhere anytime soon. Another thing I like about, American Amicable is the fact that on their underwriting, on their e-app, they provide you not only with the underwriting decision, but they provide you with the reasoning behind the decision. So let's say you wrote a piece of business and you thought they were going to be covered from the very first day. Everything seemed to check out with your client, and it comes back. They call it return of premium, which is basically like your modified policies that with the 2-year waiting period. If it comes back with the ROP, they let you know why. They're gonna show you the different medications and what's putting it to that modified death benefit. It could be medications or health conditions that maybe with another carrier that you have could still be able to offer that person first day coverage. So that's one thing that I love about the American Amicable product is that they do provide you with that information, and you're not just going to be playing guessing games trying to figure out which carrier might get your client first day coverage. By doing the application with them which way it's going to go. Hopefully it goes first day coverage. If not, at least they let you know why. And if you have a better offering somewhere else, great. And if not, you just have to work on conserving that policy with them with the 2-year wait. But again, that's information that not a whole lot of different carriers provide. But I feel like it's a great product to lead with just because of that, because it's going to make your job a heck of a lot easier when it comes to figuring out if you do need to shift gears with another carrier, based on health condition, well, at least they let you know why. And from there, like I said, you're going to be able to get that business issued maybe first day somewhere else. If not, you can conserve the modified death benefit. They call it return of premium with them. They have the immediate, graded, and return of premium. Immediate is first day coverage. Graded, of course, is like the 30, 70, 100% coverage. And then the modified return of premium, again, they call it, it's a 2-year waiting period with 10% of return of premium. It is 3 years at the younger ages. I think under the age of 65, I believe it's actually a 3-year wait on it. Some of those of you may not be aware of that. The premiums are a little bit higher on the platinum product than the senior choice. Not a whole lot, but again, we're going to be talking about the reasoning behind that, and it's the what's also included with this. And it's a product that can be used for in-home and also telesales. And then there's additional no-cost benefits. The terminal illness accelerated death benefit. If somebody is diagnosed with a terminal illness, well, the family has the insured actually is going to be able to get access to that money even before they were to pass away. So at that point, they could actually take that money. They could run over to the funeral home and pay things off themselves if they would like. Accelerated death benefit for confined care. If the insured were to end up in a nursing home, this plan will actually pay a monthly allowance to the client of 5% of the face amount of the policy. So a $20,000 policy, that client has what, $500 a month coming to them as like an allowance. And again, I mean, when they take over your assets, when you end up in a nursing home, it might help to have a little bit of extra cash coming in. And then there are some other optional benefits. There is that nursing home waiver premium rider, like we talked about. Also, an accidental death benefit. Usually, I'll try to add like a double indemnity where I'll just double the death benefit if they were to die in an accident. So if I'm writing a $15,000 policy for natural causes, I'll probably just add an additional 15 for accidental. And then the big one, this is what we're talking about today, is the value here. They receive a membership to the Everest Funeral Concierge Service. And that we're going to get into detail today, talking a little bit about that and the importance of that and how it'll make the life of your clients' families a heck of a lot easier when they pass away, because they planned ahead and they were involved with the Everest Funeral Concierge Service ahead of time. So yeah, the terminal illness, as I mentioned, pays 100% of the death benefit if they were to be diagnosed with an illness where the doctor expects them to live just 12 months or less, 24 months in some states. And then the confined care, like I mentioned, it pays that 5% of the face amount per month. And then there is also a grandchild rider. That's a great benefit as well. You can add your grandchildren to the policy, up to $10,000 for the grandchild rider. I mean, no one wants to think of anything happening to their grandkids, but heck, it costs as much to bury a grandchild as it does an adult. And with the cost of funerals these days, it's important for everybody to be covered. The rider is the most affordable way for somebody to have the young children covered on a policy. You could always do maybe like a 10-pay or a 20-pay option with a specific carrier, where then they would have that policy where they would have it for the rest of their life, but you are going to pay a little bit more. This is the most affordable way to have a lot of people covered at a minimal expense. It's just to have that rider. They're covered up until they turn 25 years old. And then the children's insurance agreement provides up to $6,000 of term insurance on each child. Now, that is not available on the return of premium plan. So there are benefits for grandchildren and also children. The nursing home waiver premium rider, once they are in a nursing home after 90 days of continuous confinement, when the care is recommended by a physician, that's when they would receive that benefit, or that benefit would go into place where then the company, American Amicable, would no longer be taking premiums, but they would still be covered. They're going to waive those premiums while the person's in the nursing home, which could really end up saving that policy. If they end up discontinuing making payments on a policy and they don't have this rider, Well, then if there is cash value in that policy, that money could be used to cover those premium payments, but it's also going to reduce the amount of coverage. Every time a premium payment is made out of the cash value, that face amount is going to continue to reduce. So with the nursing home waiver premium rider, again, it prevents all that. The policy would just be sitting there and they would be covered. They leave the nursing home, we can always continue those payments if we need to. And then the accidental death, it's available up to age of 80. And again, I usually just double the face amount for accidental. So let's talk about the Everest Funeral Concierge Service. Who is Everest? They're an independent consumer advocate available to more than 25 million individuals across the United States and Canada. Everest, their 24/7 advisors provide peace of mind and confidence when making difficult funeral related decisions. Plus, Everest advisors who are licensed funeral home directors will work with American Amicable to help expedite the payout of the life insurance. So, as I mentioned, they make sure that that claim gets paid quickly, which is probably the most important part of the whole equation. I always tell my clients final expense, well, we want to make sure that it's there to cover the final expenses. And if a company is going to drag their feet when it comes to paying a claim, to me, it's not really considered a final expense policy because it's not there to serve its purpose. The fact that Everest steps in and American Amicable alone, they're good with paying claims. Once all of the proper information is provided to the company within 48 hours, that claim should be paid. So just hop on YouTube and type in the Everest. You can watch a little video on them. It's a good service. This guy basically just explains he essentially had passed away, and he talks about how because he put everything in order ahead of time, it prevented his family from having to worry about going in to talk to different funeral home directors that are high pressure while the family's grieving. And, unfortunately, sometimes that can lead to the family getting taken advantage of, or maybe not necessarily taken advantage of, but spending a lot more than what they need to be spending. I don't feel like funeral home directors are out there really like raising their prices or anything. But what they do is they tend to add additional things that maybe are not necessary. For instance, I had a client once who told me about one of their family members who passed away, where the funeral home director had asked them if they wanted like a picture of the Last Supper in the casket. And the family, oh, sure, that would be really nice. That sounds really good. And the funeral home ended up charging them like $600 for this picture that was presented in the casket. So that's like just something additional to me that's just not necessary. I don't feel like the funeral home really has any business even providing little things like that because they're just not necessary. And that's where this Everest, they step in to pretty much say, hold on a minute, what are you guys doing here? Do they really need a picture of the Last Supper in their casket? You really need to be charging them $600 for this picture? That's where the Everest is helpful. Again, while the family is grieving, these guys are level-headed. They know the business. They've been in the business, and they're there to help and to negotiate those prices and save the family money and also make sure that claim gets paid quickly so they can pay the funeral home. They offer 24/7 assistance. At the time of need, the family can get on the phone right away and they can call in to Everest. Online planning tools, that's where the insured, they can go in, they can put their whole funeral plan in order, and they can save it in their system. They can always go in and update it if they need to. They have the Everest Price Finder in there. They can even research and look up different funeral homes to kind of see what the different funeral home prices are in the area. Maybe they don't really care. Maybe they don't really have a relationship with one specific funeral home, but maybe they want to just go to the most affordable funeral home that's within their area to get as much value out of their policy as they can. So they can look up all that information in the Everest online planning tools. And then the negotiation assistance, that's where Everest will step in, and they're real good about negotiating those prices with the funeral home, making sure that the family pays what they should be paying, make sure that they're not paying for a lot of those other unnecessary items, like the picture of the Last Supper that was $600 that was in the casket. Just little things like that that just aren't necessary. Like I said, they're just kind of there to assist the families again and make sure that everything is done right, and to make sure things go as smoothly as possible while the family is grieving. One question that I ask my clients a lot is, who is going to be handling your funeral when the time comes? And a lot of times it's either like their son or their daughter. And the next thing I'm going to ask them, have they ever had to plan or put together funeral arrangements for anybody? And if they haven't, I mean, the next thing I'm going to ask them, what's that day going to look like? Let's think about that for a minute. What's that day going to look like? And the client will tell you, it's going to be difficult on them. It's going to be rough. They've never done it. And that's where something like this we talk about, and the client, they love it. I mean, they eat this stuff up because they know it. I mean, heck, if their son's never planned a funeral, this is something that by them taking that time ahead of time is just going to make everything so much easier on everybody. And then the quick pay, again, as we mentioned, they do what they can to make sure that that claim is paid within 48 hours. Of course, that would be more of like on a non-contestable claim. Unfortunately, on a contestable claim, meaning that person hasn't quite made it the 2 years yet on a policy, the company is allowed the due diligence to go back and look at the policy, make sure that everything was answered accurately on the application. They are able to go in and look at medical records and make sure that everything was done right. As long as everything checks out, then that claim was paid. So, but that is an agent, I would recommend to you other agents out there that do what you can in that situation where it's a contestable claim. Do what you can to help and to try to get in touch with that doctor and get those medical records submitted. The sooner all of that information is submitted to the company, the faster they're going to be able to make a decision. And even on a contestable claim, I have seen with some carriers, well, they'll pay those non-contestable claims even within like 10 days, as long as that documentation is presented to them quickly. So then also there's will preparation. Okay, that's where actually it's like a free will. They can put their whole will together. Even like if they ever needed like a power of attorney drawn up, they want to designate maybe one of their family members as a power of attorney. They can put that together as well, and that's just free additional benefits. I mean, boy, most of the clients I talk to, they don't have a will, so I'll bring that up. We can provide you with a will. We can help you put it together, and same thing. That's going to save them a lot of legal fees, having to go to an attorney to get it drawn up. And even if they just go online and they fill out their will themselves, they could always run it down to the bank and get it notarized if they'd like. So again, free will preparation, power of attorney, just a lot of additional added benefits. I mean, talk about the just adding just so much value. I mean, so it's like one guy could go into a house and just talk about the absolute cheapest thing out there and how they can beat the rate, but they don't have all this. They don't have all these other things that really hit home with the client. And again, just it's going to make their family's life a heck of a lot easier. And then the tensing, which is just you can easily store and retrieve important personal information, usernames, passwords, financial records, insurance documents, even photos. So they could store all, any family photos. I'm sure you've probably been to a funeral before where there's usually maybe a slideshow, especially like if you go to like a visitation. You go to like a visitation, you're walking around, you're socializing with people there. There's usually like a slideshow of the person who had passed, maybe with like pictures of other family members, their kids, their grandkids, just friends that they were with, and little things like that. They can actually decide which pictures that they would want on a slideshow. And it's real easy to update and retrieve all of that information in the mobile app, the Tenzing mobile app, which has unlimited storage. So can really put a lot of important stuff in there. And again, it's just taking that extra step to put the entire funeral plan together ahead of time. So, and again, this gives the client that mindset that they're not just taking out another insurance policy. This is they're planning their funeral. This is their funeral plan that they're putting together. So totally different mindset. Even people who maybe are financially secure and stable and they don't feel like they need a final expense life insurance policy, they would still see value in this, and the quick access to that money. A lot of times when people have a lot of money, I mean, it's difficult for the family to access that money right away when they were to pass away. A lot of times it has to like make its way through probate, uh, things like that, where at least that money is quickly accessible to pay for their funeral. But not only that, their whole plan is put in place for them, where the family is primarily really just going to have to make one phone call and everything's going to be put together. So basically at the time of need, the way it works, they contact Everest, they discuss the wishes. And a lot of times it's those wishes that were already put together by the client. They review those costs and they're real good about negotiating those costs with the funeral home. And so then the Everest advisor will present that information to the funeral home. They'll negotiate, they'll kind of go through, and then from there, they'll work on making sure that the funeral home gets paid. So like I said, just a nice added benefit. I know there are others, like I mentioned, the Sequoia plan through SBLI, pretty comparable, which also adds that value. There are a few other companies out there as well that offer this sort of thing, but the others that I've seen, though, outside of American Amicable and SBLI, if they have any sort of program like this, the rates are usually like astronomical. I mean, they're higher than everybody else. And at least with American Amicable and the SBLI plan, that's pretty comparable. The rates are competitive. For those of you that do worry about getting business replaced, this is adding a lot of value, but it is also keeping it competitive, where some of the other plans out there that I've seen, they have the value, but they're with companies whose rates are just not even competitive. And so you could walk into one of those policyholders' homes and say, well, I have something that's very comparable to what you have. The difference is I'm probably going to be able to save you some money and be able to offer them the American Amicable Everest, or even, like I said, like that, the SBLI plan. That's about all I had for today. For additional training, go to adambrsan.com. That's about it. You can go on YouTube, on YouTube. Oh, and I wanted to mention too, we are now on Apple Podcasts, also on Spotify Podcasts. So if you like to listen to content, even maybe while you're like out in the field working, you can subscribe. It's the Insurance, Life, and Everything in Between podcast. And you, as I mentioned, you can find that on Spotify. You can also find it on Apple. And we are going to add as much content in there as possible. Myself, Chris Smith, as well as many others. So be sure to hop on Apple, subscribe. And so far we have 2 episodes loaded, and we'll be adding more and more as we go. So again, me personally, I love listening to different content while I'm out working leads. To me, it just kind of helps me stay on track, helps me stay motivated. And so we are going to be providing the same sort of content to agents now as well. So be sure to hop on there and subscribe, and we greatly appreciate it. So thanks again, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next Monday. And let's see, I don't think we have any questions or comments. Thanks a lot. Take care.